The cats of Paris knew how to survive, darting between shadows, scaling rooftops, slipping through narrow gaps in the streets, always just out of reach. But tonight, there is no escape. Inside a locked printing workshop, clawed paws scrabble against stone as rough hands close in. The yowls rise, sharp, panicked, unrelenting. The apprentices laugh as they snatch up escaping cats, their eyes gleaming with mischief and something darker. This is no ordinary night. This is a massacre. The bodies of their victims pile up in the courtyard, a grotesque monument to one of the strangest worker protests in history. But why? What could drive ordinary apprentice workers to commit such a bizarre and brutal act? Let's talk about the Great Cat Massacre. Historian Robert Darnton recounts the tale of the Great Cat Massacre in his book, The Great Cat Massacre and Other Episodes in French Cultural History. Darnton describes the life of apprentices in 18th century France as not just difficult but brutal. Apprentice printers like those at the heart of this story toiled endlessly under the harsh rule of their masters. They lived in crowded, damp attics, ate scraps and suffered endless abuse. Meanwhile, their masters feasted on fine meals, slept in linen-draped beds, and doted on their beloved pet cats. Fat, well-fed creatures that lounged by the fireplace while the apprentices shivered in the cold. But there was something even worse: the noise. When the apprentices finally collapsed onto their straw mats, exhausted from the day's labor, the cats would begin their howling and fighting, keeping them awake for hours. And the next morning, there was no mercy. Sleep-deprived and aching, they were expected to work just as hard. The resentment festered, and then it reached a boiling point. They wanted their masters to endure the same suffering they did. Inside the secluded printing workshop, the apprentices began whispering among themselves. They couldn't lash out at their master, not without dire consequences. But his cats? The pampered, spoiled creatures that seemed to symbolize their suffering? That was another story. A plan was hatched. Instead of rebelling against their master outright, they would make their master order the destruction of his own beloved pets. And when the time came, they would turn the whole thing into a spectacle, a mock trial where the cats would be sentenced like criminals. Yes, an actual trial, complete with accusations, witnesses, and sentences. It was meant to be a joke at first, but the joke turned dark very fast. One night, under the cover of darkness, the apprentices crept across the rooftops, stopping just outside their master's bedroom. Then they began. Low yowls, eerie wails, so lifelike that the entire household stirred. The cries stretched on through the night, relentless, gnawing at their master's sleep until exhaustion turned to desperation. They imitated the noises so well that the whole neighborhood was alarmed. The word spread that there is witchcraft afoot and that the cats must be agents of someone casting a spell. This went on for a few nights till the master and mistress couldn't stand it any longer, so they ordered the apprentices to get rid of the cats but told them to leave their beloved grey cat undisturbed. The hunt is soon organized. Armed with sticks and clubs, they prowled the streets, hunting down stray cats. They hung sacks at the windows of the attics and the storerooms to catch any escaping cats. The master's prized pet, the grey cat, was the first victim. One by one, the cats were caught, beaten and dragged into the courtyard. Seized by panic, many cats threw themselves at the sacks and were caught. Some were killed on the spot, and others were condemned to be hanged after the trials for the amusement of the entire printing shop. The apprentices laughed as they carried out their mock sentences. Hearing the commotion, the master and mistress arrive. Surprisingly, there were no real consequences for the workers' action. The master exclaimed, "Ah, the scoundrels! Instead of working, they're killing cats." The mistress accused them of killing her beloved grey cat, but they denied, and that was the end of it. The same scene was reenacted a few more times over nights to come, and the apprentices bragged about the massacre for years, even retelling it with laughter long after. It was a rare moment when the powerless had turned the tables, at least in their eyes. Yet beneath the absurdity, this event hinted at something deeper. To these workers, the Great Cat Massacre wasn't just an act of defiance, it was comedy. A twisted, brutal comedy that mocked their masters and their obsession with their pets. And just a few decades later, that same resentment would explode on a national scale. The French Revolution would bring the downfall of the aristocracy. The Great Cat Massacre may seem like a bizarre historical footnote, but in reality, it was an omen, a glimpse into the growing fury of the lower classes, ready to rise up against their masters. What do you think? Was this a cruel prank or a deeper act of defiance? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more such bizarre stories from our past. As always, thanks for watching.